Donald Trump apparently stashed highly classified documents about the nuclear capabilities of a foreign nation at his country club and reportedly bragged to friends he had intelligence about the French president's sex life. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Before we get to the story about a deeply compromised ex-president with various connections to international criminals and shady financial entanglements who apparently stole highly classified documents about nuclear capabilities and left them lying around the basement of his fake marbled golf lair, you know, normal politics stuff, there's also been an intense heat wave happening in California and much of the West right now, which, first of all, should be yet another wake-up call to the imminent dangers of climate change. But it's also one of those stories that comes along every so often that neatly captures just how craven and ghoulish the modern GOP has become under Donald Trump. You see, California Governor Gavin Newsom asked residents of the state to conserve energy for a few hours to avoid blackouts. And so far, it's worked. Californians banded together and kept the power grid running without issue. But then this mid-November jack-o'-lantern who sounds like Urkel swallowed a kazoo decided to chime in on the whole thing in a way that revealed a complete lack of shame and self-awareness for no other reason than he's apparently just a glutton for humiliation.
I love that Gavin Newsom was wearing his fleece, obviously in cool air conditioning, saying, let them eat cake, let them sweat, you don't get air conditioning. It's like John Kerry, who flies his private jet all over the planet lecturing people that you poor gritty working class with dirt under your fingernails, you need to go without an automobile. You need to turn your air conditioner off. In fact, you need to just stay home and eat worms.
Now, if he has worms on the brain, it's probably because there was one in the bottle of tequila he drank in Cancun after he fled his state while his constituents froze in a deadly winter storm. Do you guys remember that? Is it bad? Is it bad when your senator looks like Harold Hill trying to catch a train out of town? No. Aside from the Cancun hypocrisy from zombie Danny Zuko over here, I would also like to point out that unlike California, Texas's deregulated power grid actually did fail during that deadly snowstorm in 2021 and remains so fragile that Texas officials basically did the same thing as California earlier this year. Texas's grid operator urged electricity conservation as a heat wave drove up demand. In fact, the state's power grid operator asked Texans to turn up their thermostats and postpone running major appliances between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. 6 hours! That's just enough time to book a flight to Cancun and then have your neighbors, who apparently all hate you, rat you out to the New York Times. Remember that? When Cruz invited his neighbors to come to Cancun with him, and instead they immediately called the newspapers to complain about how much of a dick he was. Imagine how much you have to dislike someone to call a newspaper about it. I don't even know how to call a newspaper. Like, what was that conversation? Man, Cruz stinks. Are you gonna tweet about him? No, I'm calling the newspapers. I want every single person staying at a hotel to hear about this. Anyway, Cruz is just one of the more noxious examples of the GOP's many shameless liars and Trump toadies. There's also Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who has been one of Trump's most vocal defenders throughout the intensifying criminal investigation into all the classified documents Trump apparently had stashed away at his off-brand Marriott for disbarred personal injury lawyers. Rubio had already dismissed the investigation as a storage issue last week, and now he's complaining about leaks to the media.
If true, this Washington Post report, highly classified documents at Mar-a-Lago that only a cabinet-level officer or higher could even look at, that doesn't seem like the kind of thing you should have in your post-presidential desk drawer.
Well, let's break this down. First of all, again, we really don't know, because let's go back and understand that all of this information is coming from one side and one place, and that is sources with knowledge of the investigation. Well, who are the sources with knowledge of the investigation? The FBI and the Justice Department, and they are leaking to the media. And the only reason to leak to the media is to influence the narrative, which tells you this is being politicized, which is doing damage to the FBI, the Justice Department, to important institutions to our country.
What do you think does more damage to our country's institution? Leaking information about an investigation of a great public interest, or Donald Trump bringing home national secrets on his last day of work, like Henry Winkler taking home the Fonzie jacket when they wrapped Happy Days? And I know the Fonzie jacket is in the Smithsonian now, but that's only after the feds raided Henry's house. Oh, he seems sweet, old Henry Winkler, but he almost never leaves a room without a stolen prop in his pocket. But you know, I just have to say I'm so surprised to hear Rubio change his tune on the Trump document scandal, because before this recent revelation, he was actually very vocal about the importance of being careful with classified information.
Apparently, this is a level of intelligence classification that goes beyond top secret. Now, am I wrong in my reading of the law that this would be multiple felonies in every felony in every case? I mean, isn't this indictable?
Yeah, this is very serious. This is very serious. Number one, obviously, there's a legal element to it. And again, we're going to leave that to the FBI and to the Justice Department.
Yeah.
But moving forward, there's legal issues here. But let me just say, how can the next commander-in-chief be someone who inappropriately stashes highly classified information?
And the risk of that is?
The risk of that is that we're giving opponents of this government or adversaries some insight into our thinking, into our decision-making, and it provides them most certainly an advantage in the national security realm.
Thank you, Senator Rubio. Honestly, it's just so refreshing to hear a Republican finally muster up the courage to state the obvious and take on Trump's various abuses of power. In fact, to celebrate his honesty and consistency, we had an ice cream cake made just for him that says on it, "Thank you for your bravery, Senator Rubio." And oh, I forgot. We had to turn off the fridge all day to conserve power. Well, you guys, it's the thought that counts. Anyway, congratulations to Marco Rubio for showing the courage to... What's that? The clips we showed were from 2015 and 2016, and he was talking about Hillary Clinton's emails, and we just edited out the parts where he said her name to demonstrate the shameless hypocrisy and self-debasement in service of Donald Trump. Well, then, you know what? I'm glad the cake melted. We'll just give it to the crew. Like, blend it up. Tell them it's milkshakes. And let them know it's my idea. Put a note on it, says it's for me. I'll finally tap the brakes on their bullying. Anyway, so Rubio, like the rest of them, continues to brush this off like it's no big deal, despite the fact that Trump apparently had some of the government's most closely guarded secrets in his possession, which we now know included materials about a foreign country's nuclear capabilities.
We're following some breaking news on the Justice Department investigation into the documents Donald Trump had stashed away. The Washington Post has just reported that, and I quote, "A document describing a foreign government's military defenses, including its nuclear capabilities, was found by FBI agents who searched Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence." The Post previously reported that nuclear documents were among those sought by investigators.
Also, from the Post reporting, some of the seized documents detail top-secret U.S. operations that are so closely guarded, many senior national security officials are kept in the dark about them.
Okay, but in fairness, Trump was probably also kept in the dark about them. Technically, I guess they had to show him classified documents when he was president, but they probably distracted him the same way you give your kid an iPad on an airplane to shut him up. All right, sir. Here are those nuclear documents we are required by law to show you, but also we DVR'd Rudy's latest appearance on Hannity for you. You could watch that, or an episode of Paw Patrol, maybe. We do love Paw Patrol. We love Law and Order. We love paws and laws and order. Plus, Rudy does kind of remind me of Wally the Walrus. But let's just take a step back and let it soak in how insane this is. The president just had a bunch of highly classified materials lying around the basement of his country club about extremely sensitive global affairs that affect the safety and security of the entire world. And no, I'm not talking about Harry Styles spitting on Chris Pine. Although I will say, this right here is one of those extremely rare pop culture moments where I do wish Trump had his Twitter back just for a minute so we could see what would almost certainly be a psychotic and likely very funny take on the whole thing. Many people are saying Harry, no style, spit, drooled on one of our great American Chris's at the Venus Film Festival. Could it have been gum or mint? Tic-tac, lots of germs. Not nice. Sleepy Joe should act. Hashtag, where's Hunter's laptop? I would say the man knew how to tweet, but he clearly didn't, and that's what made it so special. I do think, all things considered, it's probably not ideal that an ex-president with a bunch of corrupt foreign entanglements to mobsters and dictators, not to mention various indicted henchmen, had a bunch of classified information about weapons that could eliminate all life on Earth just lying around his country club where spies or Botox salesmen could just easily find him. But don't you worry. Trump's very normal son, Eric, would like to assure us, contrary to the photo the Justice Department released as part of its affidavit in the case, Trump kept his country club very organized.
You literally have the FBI who's spending more time leaking stuff to the press. I mean, these pictures, you think my father happened to just leave documents all over his office floor?
No, I think when the FBI found them, they laid them out and took a picture of them. I also don't think drug dealers keep all their money and cocaine neatly stacked on one table. Hey, you sure we shouldn't hide this stuff somewhere, boss? Nah, I like the way it brings the room together. Yeah, make them neat. Make all the money neat. Also, I love how these guys suddenly complain about leaks now after supporting Donald Trump, arguably the biggest and messiest gossip on the planet. He reportedly bragged to some of his closest associates, both during and after his time in the White House, that he knew illicit details about the love life of French President Emmanuel Macron. I'm sorry, you think it's scandalous that a French politician had an illicit love life? You know what would be way more scandalous? A French politician with a boring love life. You think an illicit love life would be bad for Emmanuel Macron? I'm pretty sure his official campaign slogan was Macron à toi. There's no simpler, more straightforward example of how brazen and shameless the Republican Party has become in its acceptance of lawbreaking and abuse of power when it comes to Donald Trump. They will support or apologize for anything he does, no matter how egregious, because they are fully enthralled to his authoritarian cult. When it comes to Trump, guys like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio have the spines of worms. This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help. Now more than ever, if you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button, stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.